The Dogpoint Podcast, Episode 6. Today, co-hosting with me, my son, Michael.
Hi, everyone.
How to describe him? Social media manager, videographer, editor, full-time son. And my name is Mark. I'm your host, and I train dogs. He does everything else. So, today's topic, I want to talk about what happens after training. Because it's something that is oftentimes getting lost on people. So, when you train a dog, it requires that the owner, after the training session, practices what was taught.
Right.
And it doesn't end when the dog is trained. So even if I'm as the trainer, if I'm finished with the dog, so the dog has all the obedience and everything the client asks for, the dog is doing, that doesn't mean it's over. And people seem to be under the impression that, okay, the dog is trained, so I don't have to do anything anymore, and the dog will just listen for the next 12 years, right? And it doesn't work like that. Okay, so you have to keep it up. There is a lot of dogs that were doing great that a few years later do terrible because what they learned was not practiced. Okay? And it's unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary. Once a dog was at a decent level, it's simply to maintain it. 5 minutes a day will do that. You know, if you practice 5 minutes a day, once or twice a day, your dog will always stay sharp and quick and, you know, respond properly and remain non-reactive if he was reactive at some point. And so I want to drive home the point to people that you have to work with your dog, and it's for multiple reasons. One, the dog has to keep remembering it, and since we utilize muscle memory to train the dog, you know, if you stop practicing, things get rusty. And two, mentally, the dog needs to keep practicing. It's a mental exercise, and it deepens the bond with the handler,
Correct.
right? You see it with my dog, Force, all the time. Yes, he's in the bedroom, and yes, we're all chilling and watching TV and relaxing. But if I tell him to go on his pillow, he has to go on his pillow. And I'm insisting that he goes on his pillow. If I call him up on the bed, he can jump up on the bed, he can watch TV with us. But when it's time to go off, it's off. It's not maybe. And so that in itself is a training session. It's insisting on the little things will keep him obedient.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't even realize is that you can have tiny or micro training sessions. So something as simple as just a 5-minute session. Once there's a high level of engagement between you and your dog or dogs, that can be more effective than an entire half an hour or hour-long training session where either you or the dog is not mentally in it.
Correct. And it's little things. When I release a dog out in the yard, before that door opens, they have to sit.
Right.
Then the door opens, they have to wait. And then on command, they get to go out. It is little things like that. And the sum total of all those little things keep your dog obedient. Even in other commands that you may not have used in your daily routine.
Right.
But if the dog is accustomed to look at you for guidance and, you know, okay, what you want me to do next? You know, if I tell the dog free or yes and release the dog, then they can move on their own and pretty much do what they want. Run around in the yard, have zoomies, pee.
Yeah, Elena loves
Yeah,
the
no?
zoomies.
Oh yeah.
That's
Force
our-
too.
Yeah, Elena.
Force does 2 laps around the house at blinding speed
Yeah.
for a dog his size.
Which is part of the reason why he's injured.
Was
Injured. Yeah, it
Interesting.
was
Knock on wood.
raining. It was raining and the yard, well, the grass that we're on right now was extremely soggy, and he didn't get his foot out of the mud, his rear leg out of the mud in time, and there was a garbage truck. And Foster's pretty young at that point in time, and him being him, and being a juvenile ignoramus, he rushed after the garbage truck or the dump truck, and we actually didn't even know anything was wrong with him or that was the source of the injury until later on, because he naturally has a high pain tolerance or threshold. So it was only after when we took him to the vet.
Yeah,
And
he was favoring one leg a little bit. And
yeah,
at first I thought, well, maybe he sprained something. And then got him checked out, and it turns out he injured his ACL. So he had an operation subsequent to that and had his recovery period, and he's slowly re-entering training. And right now he's back to doing zoomies.
yeah,
So,
happily.
so yeah, he's fine. And it's not that anything swells afterwards, or he slows down after, or he's limping after the zoomies when the adrenaline subsides. He's fine now. Right? He's running around, he's doing everything, and he's doing it happily. So I'm glad for that. So he can resume his training a little more intensely now. And we have some catching up to do, because next year we want to do a BH with him. And maybe some other working titles. So we have to put the pedal to the metal
Yeah.
and start working more intensely with him now. And I also want to do a BH with Elena. So we have our work cut out for us.
And Elena definitely has the insane energy to do that.
Oh yeah, she has drive for 2 dogs. She's a Malinois and a Rottweiler body. So I just wanted to mention this so that dog owners, after they get their dog trained, understand that it doesn't end there.
Yeah, it's a
And
continuous process,
it-
lifelong.
Lifelong, right? Always practice with your dog. Right? We will touch other subjects as well
Hmm.
today. We have a bit of a unusual podcast today because we were starting a lot earlier, but due to a technical glitch, we end up under the lights. So it's going to be a little unusual, and we live in a tropical climate. So if you see the one or the other bug flying through the lights, forgive us. This is just the climate we live in.
Yeah.
But what we didn't want to do is not do the podcast.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. So, one other subject. I saw a video on another trainer's page. And it's a child holding the head of a dog and squeezing the daylight out of the cheeks. Like
Oh, no.
really grabbing.
No,
And
no.
the child is crying. The child is upset with something. And it's grabbing the dog. And that parent had nothing better to do than to film it with the phone. That dog's mouth is as close to the little toddler's face as this microphone is to mine.
Yeah. A lot of people these days, they just love to post everything that they think is cute online to get the social media attention, even if it means endangering their child. And we actually previously spoke about this on episode 5 of the Dogpoint
Yeah.
podcast.
And the way, if you see it, the way this child is holding this dog's head, right? And you could see the dog is really uncomfortable. One bite, and that child no longer has a face.
Yeah. Or could just die.
And the parent is there with a phone, filming. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around that level of stupidity that is taking place there. You know, it is inconceivable. Why would you not, remove that child from that situation immediately? Drop the phone and grab your child. Remove your child from the dog. Put your arm in between Better the dog bites your arm than the child's face.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's
You
a
know,
problem globally.
and it's all for a few likes and a viral video. Come on, man. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. People putting their children in danger over a video.
Yeah.
It's I'm sorry. I guess it's an age thing. With every year that I age, my tolerance level for stupidity drops. Right. That is just nuts.
And but even when I'm on social media and I see things like this, it frustrates me, and I see it and I go, oh no, or I'm almost cringing because I'm expecting something bad to happen because
Yeah,
I can see the dog's body language in the video. I can see dog tensing up. I can see dog kind of, side eyeing. I can see the. It's hard to describe, but besides body language, you can almost see it in the eyes itself. And people are often completely oblivious to dogs' body language. And that is actually one of the most important things to know when having dogs, when being around dogs, when training dogs, because dogs cannot speak like us. So
that
we
is,
have to read what they are thinking and what they are going to do based mostly on body language.
and that is something that I teach each and every one of my clients.
Yeah, because it's
How
essential.
to read their dog. Because you need that going forward in life. You need to see, especially if you have a dog that's a little reactive or fearful,
Right.
right? You need to know when the dog is nearing threshold, so that you know what to expect, so that you know, okay, I have to stop this before something happens.
And on top of that,
Right.
each breed and each dog within a breed has different thresholds, whether it's just tolerance for a bit of stupid actions or pain threshold. Because
Yeah, it's an individual thing, right? Each individual dog is different. It's not even that you can generalize, okay, this breed is this and this breed is that. Because I have seen breeds that generally have a high threshold of pain, for instance. I have seen Rottweilers that are wimps.
Yeah.
Right? That the slightest thing they cry for. And, sometimes it's accompanied with a little dose of fear.
Okay.
It's not just the pain.
Right.
And there's other dogs that, put away things and look at you straight, and it's like, okay, that's it. There are some dogs at the vet getting a vaccination, and they stand there like, we done?
And not only is it down to the breed and individual dog, from a dog's perspective, it's also based on who they're interacting with. Because, for example, he would allow dad or myself to touch him in certain places, to inspect, if we rough play, for example. But he will not tolerate that from the vet.
No, or anybody else.
Yeah, he won't.
No.
And because of his operation, and he associates his last operation with a particular room, if he enters that room, or if he sees that he's entering that specific room that he had that operation in, he immediately goes into protection mode
Yeah,
to
he
protect
gets
himself.
defensive.
One
That's why we have to sedate him outside of that room.
Yeah.
Luckily, that place we only went to for the operation. His general vet is a different place, so it's not much of an issue. He's a dominant dog that doesn't like to get dominated, and touch is a form of domination. So he does not accept anybody else to touch him other than myself, you, mommy, right? The three of us. And that's about it. He is not... I can walk him through any number of crowd, and he's fine. He's not interfering with anybody. I can put him in a down in the crowd, in a thick crowd that can walk around him, and he's fine. He's not flying up at anybody. However, touching him is a different thing.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, his sister is like that too.
Right. Yeah.
One of her sisters, right? She's like this too. She doesn't like to get touched by anybody else.
And again, this highlights the variation. And in this case, it highlights the variation within the same litter.
Yeah.
And then there's, I don't want to say it's a stark contrast, but another example of this difference within the same litter is Frank. Now, while Frank still isn't going to allow just any and everybody to touch him and inspect him in certain places, obviously not, right?
He's a lot more social. He's a
Yeah.
lot more social than Forces.
He's a lot more social, and once he knows you and is properly introduced to you, and he sees that his owner is comfortable with you, he is gonna love you like there's no tomorrow. And I'll be extremely biased towards Force, and I love him because of his goofball self. But I have to admit that Frank, as a littermate, is better in that regard.
Yeah, he's more social, right? He has less problems with being touched.
Yeah.
Right? And look at their father. He goes to school outreach programs where children he's never met pet him, right? Mm-hmm. With the owner there. Of course, they can't hug him and they can't, give him kisses and all of that.
Yeah.
That would take it a little too far. Mm-hmm. But he will lie down and he will allow people to pet him and to touch him.
Just for context, everyone, for those of you who are first-time listeners and may not know, Echo, who we're referring to, his full name is Echo Van Het Vanguard, and he is Force's father or sire, and he is part of the essential blueprint as to why Force is so amazing.
True. Echo has been in numerous TV commercials. Just did one recently.
Yeah.
Another one again. And school outreach. He has been in TV studios when Aaron gave interviews, and so he's accustomed to the lights and all. He's just an amazing dog. He's a true ambassador for the breed.
Yeah.
Right? But it was also a lot of work. Echo was not always like that. He was a bit like Force when he was younger, right? It took a few years to get him to the point where he is now. It was a lot of work. Aaron did countless hours of training and socializing with this dog, right? Something that Force still has ahead of him. So I still have to do a lot of work with him, and with operation and prior to that lockdowns and all that, we didn't get to do that yet. So he's still a work in progress. So we will do all of that with him, as well as Elena is super social. Elena, you can take her anywhere and she's quite happy. She's not quite, letting everybody touch her. It doesn't go that far. But you can take her in any environment and she will function.
Yeah, like what she actually loves to do is that she has her Kong, which by the way you can get on our Amazon storefront. The link will be in the bio. And during the morning times, she has identified one or two neighbors that frequently walk on an early morning. So when she's outside, she will actually toss or launch the Kong over the gate for them to
throw it back in.
Right? And she's essentially driving herself. She's looking at them like, hey, play with me. But at the same time, those people cannot enter the yard. She will not allow them to enter the yard and cross that boundary.
Yep. She will roll the Kong under the gate. Mm-hmm. And then they throw it back in and she's happily chasing it. And if she doesn't have the Kong around and the same people walk in the road, they pass the gate, she's all growling and snarling. Which, she's doing her job. So you will see that within a breed, within a litter even, you can get huge differences. So one should never generalize when it comes to dog behavior. It's all about the individual in front of you. For me as a trainer, it's all about the dog in front of me. And whatever that dog needs, that dog gets. right? So if a dog has high food drive and I'm working just with food, great. If I have to use a slip lead, I use a slip lead. If I have to use anything else, I use whatever I have to help this particular dog, right? You don't teach a 1.5-year-old untrained mastiff to walk next to you and ignore other dogs with a flat collar,
Right.
right? I mean, unless of course it's a very docile mastiff, then you get it done. But if he's like the typical mastiff and is quite dog aggressive by nature and has had no training as a puppy and no socialization as a puppy, it's gonna be a tall order to do this just with a flat collar and a leash. Okay, so we will use whatever we have to make that happen. Then, because if we don't, the reality is, yes, you can do it long term with other methods as well.
Mm.
I'm not disputing that. However, the owner or where the owner live oftentimes don't have that time frame available.
Yeah.
It's either the dog learns to behave or the dog has to go. And then the question becomes, go where? Right?
Which is
Put the dog in the shelter and then what? Who's going to take this dog after? The dog still has to go for the learning process. The dog still has to go, right? And a shelter situation is poison for a dog reactive dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because now you add barrier aggression to it. Because dogs constantly pass the kennel door on their way in or out.
And this is why Dad and I stress to everyone we speak to, whether it's online, through Dogpoint, a client, or just a member of the public, always choose the right breed for your lifestyle and needs. That is absolutely vital. If you know that you work most of the day but you still want a dog to chill with like a little couch potato, research and choose some of the laziest breeds or typically laziest breeds you can find, because when they're home,
Don't get the Malinois.
yeah, no, complete opposite.
Don't get the Mal.
Get a breed like a Basset Hound, or the English Mastiff.
Yeah, and conversely, if you into hikes and you're a very outdoorsy person, and every weekend you're going somewhere on a trek or on a hike or to the beach or climbing a hill or
German Shepherd.
German Shepherd, Malinois, all those active breeds are for you, because now you have an outlet for their energy. Okay, and if you do this all the time and every weekend, then great, right? And then the next thing is, when it comes to exercise, people talk about, I'm taking my dog for a walk. And dogs are very efficient movers. So if you have a high energy dog, walking your dog is not going to do much in terms of exercise. Okay, they need more than a walk. So you better serve the dog playing 20 minutes, half an hour game of tug and fetch in the yard and draw more energy out of that dog than a 2 or 3 hour walk.
Yeah, mental and physical stimulation in most engaging ways will always be better.
And it builds engagement, right? So that means the dog wants to be around you even more. That means the dog will listen more. That means the dog becomes easier to train. Once you have engagement, you have a lot, right? Without engagement, you don't have much.
Which you always emphasize, because it's
right?
true.
Yeah, and I tell all my clients that without engagement, you don't have much. So you have to work on engagement. You have to work on the dog making eye contact. You have to, and it's amazing how many clients say, with my previous dog, when I got this trained, the trainer always told me not to look the dog in the eyes.
What?
And I'm like, say that again? What? No, you want him to look at you. Right?
Yes, your dog.
From puppy, the dog makes eye contact. Here's a cookie, right? You look at me more. I want you to look at me all the time, right?
That trainer definitely mixed up
Yeah, it is my suspicion that that trainer was probably afraid of that dog and didn't want to make eye contact because the dog would have seen it as a challenge. But if you have
Exactly.
engagement with a dog, eye contact is absolutely vital. That's why when I see people trying to train a dog wearing shades, I'm like, what you doing? You taking the most vital tool away by wearing those shades. The dog needs to see your eyes,
Yeah, because they can't understand English or whatever language that the person
right?
speaks.
Most of a dog's communication is non-verbal. So how are you communicating with the dog if the dog can't see your eyes? It's crazy. The things people do out there is just nuts. Okay, it's different if you have the dog at the end of the leash and you're doing protection work and the dog is looking at the decoy all the time, right? Yeah, you can wear your shades, right? Because the dog is looking in a different direction. Not saying no. However, if it's obedience you're doing, take them off. The dog needs to see you, right? Body language is important. Super, super important. Which is why I like the virtual sessions so much more than the in-person sessions. Because I've been at this for 40 years, 40 plus. So
Lots of dogs.
it's hundreds of dogs,
Yeah.
thousands of dogs.
Over 3,200 clients.
And if I go and train those dogs, I need them to respond. I need them to have engagement. I need them to have you build a relationship with the dog. There are some customers' dog that are as close to me as my own dogs. So you have to work at it all the time. All the time. It's not
Constantly evolving process. And as time goes on, trainers globally discover new methods, new ways.
Yeah, and
new
in
research is done.
and in the virtual sessions, right? If I'm working with a customer's dog, what happens is that there are so many things that I've learned and done and automatically do over the course of 4 decades that it's easy to forget to mention them when you explain how to do this with the dog to the client.
Because your brain
Because
is on autopilot.
they come automatic, right? Whereas if I'm behind a camera and I'm talking to the client and they handle the dog, then they have to work on their body language to get the dog to do what they need the dog to do. And so they'll learn right from the onset, what brings which result. And they'll learn how it works and what they need to do, how they need to posture and everything in order to get the dog to do certain things. Right? Like a proper heel, a sit, a finish, and a down, and all those things. And by doing it themselves right from the start, they don't miss out on those things. And then I can point it out. So you see how shift a little bit towards this side, or reposition yourself a little bit, and then they do see how the dog's reacting much faster to this.
And then they have the aha moment because they see how their action.
And then they want to replicate that, and then every now and again you remind them, and then bam, they have it.
And then it also becomes easier if they get another dog. And because of how they slowly learn the process of dog training, when you explain something, because of how they have learned from the start, all this background knowledge, and have seen with their own eyes, when you explain, it's like, okay, that makes sense. They don't have to. They don't have to think in their brain, okay, I don't really understand, but I'll just do it because he's a dog trainer, so I'll do it because
Yeah, and you get less of the dog behaving perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, the bias.
And then when I leave and they try to do what I did, then the dog is giving them half that. And I say, well, I practice with him during the week, but he's not behaving the same way as when you're here and you handle him, right?
Plus, most dogs naturally love you, almost to a fault.
There's that. Not all though.
No, not all. That's
For
in most.
for some stronger willed dogs, they see me as a problem initially.
Threat, yeah.
Initially, right? They take one look at me. It's like, I'm getting some opposition there.
Yeah.
I have to watch this guy. And
You
then,
can't get away and overrule
and
you.
then a session or two, and I win them over, and then they're super cooperative after.
Yeah,
but
because they realize you have source of food.
initially, when I'm walking in the yard, they look at me. It's like, who let him in? But yeah, so with virtual sessions, because they're the only ones handling their dog, then they get the result, and the dog behaves the correct way with them right from the start. Because I'm teaching dog owners how to train their dog. In those virtuals, I'm actually not training the dog. I'm training the owner to train his dog or her dog. Whereas if I'm in an in-person session and I'm holding the leash, then I'm training the dog.
Right. Well, for the
Right?
most part.
For the most part, yeah.
yeah.
I'm a hand over the leash and have them do it and
practice,
so forth.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that in the virtuals, that aha moment and that progress in the owner is faster.
Yeah, definitely. They make progress
than
faster,
in person, right? And that is a great thing. That is an absolutely great thing. Because then my influence is also not there over the dog.
Right.
Okay? It's a more pure version of it. So
it's more effective.
Hard to explain for me, right?
I think I could.
English is not my first language, so it is a more pure way of handling the dog. My influence is not there at all.
I would say it's
other than teaching the owner.
I would say it's more effective because at the end of the day, the client is the one that needs to interact with this dog every day.
Yes.
The client is the person this dog is gonna see, and the client is the person that this dog has to listen to. So if the dog is basically trained via virtual session by the client,
you get
from
everything.
the very start.
They get everything.
The dog is gonna know, okay, I have to do this and this and this for this person. They can't think in English, but you guys get what we mean.
Yeah, but if I want to get my food, this is what I have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
If I want to go for a walk, this is how I have to behave. If I want to be in the house and hang out with my owners, this is how I have to behave.
If I want to be spoiled occasionally.
Yes. If I want to get the extra treats and the extra hugs and the extra pets and all that and get a little spoiled, then this is how I have to behave in order to get it. If I want to go out for a walk, here is where I have to sit with the door wide open, and I can't just run out. Okay? I can't just bark at every stranger that they let in the house.
Yeah, excessive barking.
I can't just bark my head off because the neighbor comes home. Right? Neighbor comes home every day. There's no reason to bark for that. Okay? All those little things. And it's to point them out to the owners and at first, when people hear, virtual sessions, so they're a little skeptical, of course, because it's a new thing and it started with COVID and people are like, how is he going to train my dog remotely? I'm not. You are training your dog and I'm going to show you how. And I can demonstrate what I need you to do with one of my dogs so that people can get a visual on that. And then just repeated repeat the task with the dog themselves, and so they get everything done. So I love virtuals for that. It's people get results,
and even clients enjoy it.
And after the initial aha moment, where all that skepticism flies out the window the moment the dog responds to them. Then they're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to be in traffic. I don't have to be in flooding rain. I don't have to be, go in no class, where I'm hot and sweaty and all of that. I can do this from the comfort of my home and get results with my dog.
Yeah, and a lot of people are skeptical at first because they think to themselves, how how can this possibly be done virtually? How can you train? What do you mean that you can train a dog virtually? But it's possible, and clients have signed up, and clients have had results. And as you've said, it's almost faster than in person because
Yes,
they
it
do
is.
everything and they
Yes.
build the bond and they build the engagement
Yes.
with the dog.
Because the first thing we do in those virtuals is build
Mm.
engagement. Whether they have some engagement already or not, we're working on engagement first
Yeah, and even
to make sure that they have it.
Larry Crone also said that he makes rapid progress with his phone consults with his virtual clients
Yeah.
because he shares some of his similar views in that owners are the handlers and they do everything one time,
Yes.
and he's just in the background instructing and fine tuning based on their feedback and their video submissions.
Yes. And it works great. It works great. I love it. I absolutely love it.
And it can be done from anywhere in the
Anywhere
world.
in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
You
can
could
make
be
any
anywhere in the
country.
world and, can get your dog trained.
So if you're listening and would like to sign up for virtual sessions, you can go to dogpoint.pet and you can actually book a free consultation.
Yeah. It's a free 15-minute consultation, and then if you like it, you can book the full 1-hour consultation for only $65. Great deal. And yeah, get your dog trained. Don't spend another day just, wondering why Fido is not listening.
And a lot of people who got dogs or puppies during the pandemic are finding this out the hard way. A lot of people have been calling, and nothing is wrong with anybody calling. I just mean that a lot of people now have the same problem because of the pandemic. There are lots of dogs with separation anxiety, with behavioral issues.
Tons of bad behavior due to lack of training, lack of socialization, and anxiety on the whole, because people were home, there was constant contact, and then it's also a lack of sleep, right? Because people were trapped in their homes during the lockdowns and then got the puppy and then want to play with the puppy all the time, and so the puppy doesn't get the 18 to 20 hours sleep it needs a day.
Yeah, puppies need a lot of sleep to grow, just like babies.
And so they turn into nervous and edgy dogs that are anxious. And then when the owner then goes back to work, then it's less, oh my God, where you going? You're supposed to be home. And then chaos ensues. And when they come back, the whole apartment is destroyed and everywhere is pee and poop and torn up couch pillows. And it's also a bit of a too much freedom too soon scenario, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it over the course of your life that I raise every puppy in the bedroom, and it's a playpen, then a crate, and they sleep in the crate, and then they have to earn their freedom. So I will have them on a pillow in the bedroom, and I will leave the room for a little 2-3 minutes and come back. And if everything is still intact, good boy, here's a treat.
For non-dog people, when he says that they have to earn their freedom, that sounds a bit harsh to the average person. What he means is that they have to earn certain privileges.
Unsupervised timeout.
Yeah.
They have to earn. Let's put it this way. Of course, they're out of the crate, running around in the yard, but they're being supervised.
Yeah.
Right? Even in the house, they're loose, but they're being supervised. And when they can't be supervised, they go in the crate. And then they get a little 5 minutes at a time, unsupervised. And if they behaved well, then they get 10 minutes the next time, and then 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. And so over time, they earn my trust that I can leave them alone without them interfering with anything. And it also teaches your dog that it's okay to be alone at times. Right? My dog doesn't know whether I'm going to the fridge to get a yogurt and come back to watch TV, or whether I'm going to work and I'm gone for 6 hours, or whether we film a podcast out here and then I come back home, he doesn't know.
He's just peeved that he's not going with you.
He's on his pillow. Is like, where you going?
Almost like
But
a
I'm not
disgruntled way.
telling him bye. I'm not telling him hello when I come back, because it's those things that create the separation anxiety.
amp them
No,
up
no
before
dog
you
is
leave.
born with separation anxiety. That is a condition that is created purely by humans, right? And if you raise your dog correctly and teach your dog right from little puppyhood that it's okay to be alone for a certain amount of time, then they won't get separation anxiety. It's as simple as that. But in some people's eyes, putting a dog in a crate for an hour or two, oh my God, you're so cruel. But the dog being stressed, producing cortisol like a champion for the 6 hours that you're in the office and he destroys your apartment, that's not cruel, right?
Yeah.
That is okay. That is fine. We give him some Prozac and he will be fine, right? To me, that is just lunacy. Okay,
And
I will always utilize crates to raise my dogs. It has worked for decades. I don't see why all of a sudden, some Karen can tell me how that is so wrong, right? That's not gonna happen.
and raising dogs, especially from the puppy stage, I don't want to fully compare them to humans because they're not. You can't do that because you'll make
Yeah,
a lot of mistakes
they're
that way.
not humans. They're
But
not.
one aspect that they do share is that you have to ensure that they have a healthy, proper development as a puppies, because just like with humans, that will, I don't want to say establish, but it will have a significant impact on how they behave and their mentality progressing on and while they mature.
Yeah, and how anxious or nervous they're gonna become, not because they're genetically like this, but because the owner made them that way,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of those things can be easily avoided just simply by doing the right thing.
An example of that would be like trauma. So a lot of times parents let their child play with the dog and lift the puppy up, and then the child, whether intentionally, for whatever sick reason or accidentally, you never know with children, drops the puppy. That is going to be traumatic
Yeah,
for
that
the puppy.
a drop can be enough for a puppy to dislike children all his life.
Yeah.
It happens very easy. Okay? Happens very, very easy. That's why children and dogs should never be unsupervised, and children should be taught that dogs are not toys. It's not something you pick up from the toy box, play with it for an hour, and then discard it. It's not, no. Dogs are living beings, and the respect has to flow both ways. The dog has to learn not to run over the child or knock over the child and be respectful to the child. But the child also has to learn to be respectful to the dog and not pull on the ears, tails, grab the face and all those things. But we have talked about that at length
In length in the previous podcast, yeah.
right. So I'm not going to stay too long on that topic. But raising a dog, with some common sense, really. That's all that's required. Some common sense, some guidance. We have so much free information out there on our pages alone. And we are not the only ones, obviously.
No.
There are so many other trainers, good trainers and world-renowned trainers that have endless videos that are free on their pages. Nobody really has any excuse to raise a psycho dog. This,
Yeah.
not really.
And
You know,
you also have
A
to,
few minutes of Google can fix that.
in training and raising your puppy into a dog, or whether you got it as a fairly mature dog, it's variable. So you have to gauge whether it's based on research, advice from your trainer, your own observations. You have to gauge how intelligent and how driven your dog is. How much guidance does your dog need? How easy does your dog learn? Because that will, I shouldn't say will, that plays a vital role in how you adjust your interactions and your training program for your dog or dogs. Because it doesn't make sense moving at the same pace and the same or with the same methods with,
Of course,
with a highly intellectual dog.
You have to adopt. There are some dogs that are highly intelligent and learn very quickly, and it's easy to teach them. And then there are some dogs where there's just nobody home.
Yeah, school brain.
Right? We always make the joke, you lift up one ear and you see the daylight shining through from the other side. Because some dogs are just not smart. You can get that. You know,
and that could be either.
That could be in any breed, right? It's an individual dog. If a dog is poorly bred and is bred from two stupid parents, chances of the puppy being bright are slim, right?
Go to make sheep.
Yes, local slang. Goat don't make sheep. That's true. So, of course, you have to adjust the way you train. So if I have a super smart border collie or Malinois or even Rottweiler that I'm working with, I can move a lot faster and with a lot more intensity than when I have the proverbial rug.
Yeah,
right?
those
that
breeds,
only moves when you rattle the food bowl.
Those breeds will definitely. You see, a lot of people underestimate is that those breeds will have you at your limits in the sense that you always have to be on point. You always have to be ready mentally because they are so intelligent that you cannot let them outpace you.
Some dogs are master manipulators.
Of course.
Like them little Maltipoos, they have their owners wrapped around their little paw in no time flat.
They know exactly how to
because they're
manipulate.
Small, so people believe a small dog doesn't really need training, which is a big mistake. Right? And then the dog is very manipulative, and before you know it, he doesn't like this food, and he doesn't like that food, and he doesn't really eat this, and he doesn't really eat that. Really? Okay, we can fix that. But that is just the dog having learned that if I don't eat it, they give me something else. So I'm going to have them keep switching until I get something that I really like. And when I'm getting bored with that, I stop eating it again, and then they bring me everything under the sun again until I find something that I like, and then I eat that. And so the dog develops this habit of being a very picky eater and only wants the best. And that is the dog training the owner. Rather than the other way around, right?
Which is what happens in
some Yorkies are like this too.
Yes.
Some Yorkies are super bright. I've had Yorkies that I taught 10, 15 tricks on top of obedience because they were just really bright and willing to work.
And some dogs, whereas some dogs you can watch them in their eyes and know that there's nobody upstairs, but other dogs you can watch them and you can almost see the intelligence.
You can see the wheels turning behind the eyes, right?
Yeah.
You just take one look at this dog and you know this dog is smart. This dog is smart. He's observant and he's just trying to figure me out, right? He's trying to figure out how he can possibly manipulate me. Of course, it will happen the other way around. But he will try. Okay? And those are the fun ones to work with. I like working with smart dogs.
Yeah, because it's always a challenge.
Yes, and I love a challenge.
And oftentimes you learn a lot from them.
Yeah,
even when you thought you've learned a lot.
Every dog I train, I learn something from. That is why the toolbox of training methods has become so large over the 40 years. Because I've come across some dogs that you get once every 10 years. But I've come across three, four of those dogs already. So if I get number 5, then okay, we know how to deal with you. We've done this before. And so
you'll learn something new.
Yes, or he's teaching me something new. I know my own dogs, each and every one of them teaches me something. And I'm always grateful for that. Yeah. Because that's how we progress. That's why I'm constantly also on online. Always searching for new methods and that's interesting. Let me try this out. and see, try working, sometimes coming up with things on my own. I mean, dog training is dog training, right? Teaching basic obedience is teaching basic obedience. At this stage, nobody is reinventing the wheel anymore. Okay? There are do's, there are don'ts, there's variations, but by and large, it's the same.
Well, there are people
right?
reinventing the wheel, but they're not necessarily the most sane in
Yeah,
the training methods.
there are some that think they're reinventing the wheel,
Yeah,
but they don't show what they do.
exactly.
They don't show what they do at all. As a matter of fact, all they resort to is telling everybody else, if you don't do exactly what I'm saying
Within
to
this
do,
paradigm,
then you are a bad person.
Yeah, and if
Right?
you
And that is just stupid. I'm sorry. This is just stupid.
and if you go on our social media, and because I see the comments all the time, there is bound to be some keyboard warrior that has their strong opinion and insists that you're wrong and that you can only do it this particular way. And you can cite, you can link, you can prove all of the research, all of the
I don't
peer-reviewed
anymore.
studies, the articles, and yeah,
I don't anymore. Right?
because you can't win with them.
Social media is a great tool,
Mm.
but it also has a great feature.
Block.
Swipe.
Oh yeah.
Right? Swipe. Because those guys, they're not going to change their mind no matter how much you try to educate them, right? So I no longer waste time on that. You believe what you want to believe, okay, great, right? You do you. I know what works. And I will continue to do what works. And I will continue to help dogs, and I will continue to help clients help their dogs. And I will continue to have dog owners where I go back to them or see them somewhere with their dog 8-9 years later. The dog instantly recognizes me and does everything that he has learned. The only time I might hear from them is okay, I got a new puppy and I want you to do the introduction to my existing dog, right? And then they get a short refresher with the new puppy, and then they take it from there because they've done it before. And it's stuck with them so much because they have practiced with the previous dog for all those 8-9 years that they know exactly what to do with their next dog.
Yeah.
They don't need me anymore for
It's
that.
only when
And that is the whole idea, right? I don't want to just train dogs and get paid for it.
right, and not leave the owners better off.
I want to train dog owners to the point where I teach them on their dog, and any dog they get after that, they don't really need me anymore. They know what to
Right.
do. That is my goal. Because the more educated dog owners out there, the less dogs suffer.
True.
And the ratio of dogs owned to trainers in existence is so skewed. There's so much more dogs than trainers. We cannot train all these dogs. So the only way to help a large number of dogs
That's why spreading knowledge.
is by spreading knowledge and educating dog owners. And if with every dog that I train, I can educate the owner to the point where he can train every subsequent dog himself, then I've done my job. That is one less person to worry about, and whatever amount of dogs he will have, you don't have to worry about those dogs anymore. So next. And so you go down the road. The goal is that years from now there is a huge number of educated dog owners out there.
Which, for those of you who don't know, is actually one of the founding objectives for Dogpoint. It was to educate, not only for just showing videos of training dogs, but it's to educate everyone throughout the world, as much people as we can reach in as many forms as possible, whether it's the blogs on our website, dogpoint.pet, or on
Newsletter.
our newsletter, which, by the way, if you're interested, you can click the link in our bio or on our website and sign up for our newsletter.
Then
And
we have the Instagram page, the TikTok page,
Yeah.
the Facebook page.
and we
We're
constantly
trying to reach people everywhere with free videos, just to learn something about your dog. Okay, if you need further help, if you need further advice, contact us. That's what we're here for. But we have tons of free stuff out there. The podcasts are free. There's so much information that we put out there free of charge that it's bound to educate some dog owners.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. I mean, we have 200 posts, 200 videos out there.
200 plus.
200 plus. And that is since April. So, it's growing all the time. So, we're putting every day, we're putting out stuff. So, make yourself smart. Learn something. If you like the podcast, for instance, or any of the videos, the more you hit like, the more the algorithm will take us to other people.
Throughout the world,
so that they can learn something about their dog.
And for those of you who like to support us, you can support us for free. Just kindly, if you enjoyed this podcast or any of our podcast episodes, just kindly share it, recommend it to a friend. You can leave a review. That helps us in the algorithm. But moving on, I have a question for you because I think it's important for those who are listening out there to know. It's okay if you want to take a few seconds to think about it. What does it mean to you to be a dog trainer?
Yeah,
it's an interesting question.
If you're looking for a long answer or a short answer?
Either one.
What does it mean to me to be a dog trainer? Short answer is everything. It's what I live and breathe. I wake up in the morning thinking about dogs and I go to sleep in the evening thinking about dogs. Not that I don't think about my family.
Right.
Right? But my whole life outside of family revolves around dogs.
Since you're 7.
I don't go out much. I don't go into clubs or pubs or anything like that. Right? The only time I go out, it's really a get together in the dog club where we cook something. Right? Birthday parties at home. Don't socialize outside of that much because I'm thinking of what more information dog owners need. How do I help this dog in my appointment tomorrow? What I'm going to do with that dog? How I'm going to progress that dog? How I'm going to help the dog owner work better with his dog? How do I get a dog owner to understand another principle in dog training so that he can build a better relationship with his dog? Those are the things that I think about. This is what, as I said, I live and breathe. So it means the world to me to train dogs. And I will do it until I'm physically not able to do it anymore.
And even then you can do virtuals.
And even then I'm doing virtuals from the wheelchair. Right? People ask me, so dogs are works, and if you can't, work your dog, would you stop having dogs? No. Because then I will have somebody do the physical training with my dog, but I will still have a dog. The only time I won't have a dog is when I'm dead. I can't be without dogs. When I came to this country, for 9 months, I did not have a dog. It was the worst 9 months of my life. It was the most miserable time because I did not have a dog to come home to until I rescued one.
And
that was Barkley.
Right, I was not about to ask if it was Barkley.
That was Barkley. That was a rescue Rottweiler. Right?
For those of you who think he's... well, I shouldn't say for those of you, but there are people online that seem to think that he's a buy-only type of person. No, he has rescued dogs before.
Yeah, and I had mixed dogs. I had rescue dogs. Right? I volunteer in the local shelter all the time. And it's about giving back. Dogs have taught me so much, so I'm trying to give back some of that by volunteering time at a shelter and see if I can make a dog more adoptable so that dog can find a good home.
Not only just shelters, but sometimes I know some vets may call you an emergency or a dog that they need an assessment on.
Yeah, somebody brought in a dog and they don't know how to handle the dog sometimes, and it's like,
Or the dog may have attacked somebody and they need to know how
yeah,
psychologically sound
how do
is
we
this
deal
dog.
with this
Yeah.
dog? How do we help this dog if we have to do something? If we have to give the dog a vaccine, but you wouldn't let us, how do we go about this,
And
and so
you've
forth.
even trained staff and
Yeah,
had a lecture.
I trained a safe handling course in the veterinary school. The train the trainer kind of course where the instructors were taught how to safely handle dogs so that they don't get bitten in the clinic.
Right.
How to teach a dog to like a muzzle, for instance, is part of it.
Well, some dogs, I wouldn't say they like it, but they get taught how to be comfortable and okay
Yeah,
and stress free.
yeah.
Yeah, stress free.
It started with one of Aaron's dogs, Chewy.
Yeah.
Used some food to get him accustomed to the muzzle, and then put on the muzzle and feed him through the muzzle. It was a basket muzzle. And then Aaron took him for a walk. So every time he was going to take him for a walk, he put on the muzzle. So that dog actually liked the muzzle. So
Because he knew it meant he's
because
gonna
it
go for a
meant
walk.
that he's going for a
Yeah,
walk.
the
So when
association.
Aaron pulled out the muzzle, the dog volunteered to stick the nose in it because, okay, come on, let's go.
Yeah, because a positive,
Yeah.
a positive
He
association.
he associated something positive
Relationship,
with
yeah.
wearing the muzzle. And so, you can teach a dog that it's not a bad thing. No dog really likes a muzzle, right? But those that need it, they should be muzzle trained.
Also, there's the right type of muzzle to get.
Yeah. I like basket muzzles because dogs can pant freely with it. They can drink water with it, right? Especially the Baskerville, also available on our Amazon storefront. I like the Baskerville muzzles. Of course, it depends on the type of dog, right? So, yeah, I believe that every dog should be muzzle trained because you never know if your dog gets injured and you have to pick up this dog and this dog is biting to try and get out of that pain or out of that situation.
Yeah.
People have to understand, okay, there might be times, it's not because I want to use it every day, but there might be a time where I have to put a muzzle on my dog. And if the dog is not accustomed to that and fights you, then it's going to be really difficult to get that muzzle on the dog.
And then
Especially if you're a layperson and you're not accustomed doing it.
we hear and see about these stories all the time
All the
by
time.
vets.
All the time.
Vets speak about it in length all the time, and oftentimes vets are frustrated because these people, of course, ultimately because they're passionate about dogs and other animals, they want to help the dog, but they can't because this dog is out of control. They can't get the muzzle on, and they also have to, especially I would say like the head vets, have to think about the safety of the staff, the
Of course.
liability.
They're not needle cushions. They go to work in the morning to help dogs, not to get bitten.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be part of the job description that, if you're working as a vet tech, you're supposed to take bite. No.
And leading back to the example you gave with Aaron's dog, with Chewy, loving the basket muzzle or loving the relationship between the basket muzzle and going for a walk and a positive association and his reward, how he was rewarded for it. Again, this is an example of knowing when to use positive versus negative reinforcement.
Yeah, if you just slap a muzzle on a dog and say, okay, you have to wear this. Of course, the dog spends every second that he can raise a foot in trying to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, I want to shift the topic a bit. I would like to hear your view on use of both positive and negative reinforcement, because a lot of people often think that unless you're positive only, you only use negative and compulsive training to get the dogs to do
No,
stuff.
what those guys don't understand is that 98% of what we do
It's positive.
is positive reinforcement. And even if we use a pinch collar or an e-collar,
Mhm.
You see it with force. If I put the pinch collar on him,
He's excited.
he's actually not waiting for me to open it up so I can put it around his neck. He's trying to stick his head through it. Because he associates it, oh, we train him. He's getting
Yeah.
super excited. Same for the e-collar. I can barely fasten the buckle because he keeps moving and it's like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Because he's getting excited. Why? Because it's at a level that he can barely make out. It's just like another leash. You know, if I put the same level on me, I can barely feel it. It is just a reminder that no, I said to come to me. You know, and then he comes, and it's gotten to the point where I don't have to press anything when I call him, because he just comes flying. So it's hardly used. He might wear it. He might wear it for a training session or 2 training sessions or 3 training sessions. And it might get used once in 3 training sessions. The rest of the time I have no need to, but it's there. It's a tool. And those guys believe that we crank it all the way up and light up the dogs and yank really hard on the pinch collar, and instead of a little tap, hey, no, heel. You know, they always believe that if you use this tool, you're automatically abusing.
Yeah,
and that's just stupid.
A lot of people have no idea what it actually feels like. And for those of you out there, I have a bit of a funny story. So, I was curious when I was a bit younger on what it felt like, what the prong collar felt like, and what the e-collar felt like. Because I would say when I was young, I was always curious how dogs see and feel things from their perspective. So I tried them out on myself, as crazy as that would sound, and as much as parents would hear that and be like, oh my gosh. But I was fine. It didn't hurt me. The pinch collar just felt, I would say exactly...
It pinched?
Yeah. Yeah. But it didn't break my skin. And not only that, dog's skin...
It's a little tougher, yeah, because I have the hair on top of it.
Exactly.
Too.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not the same thing as you getting electrocuted. Well, I shouldn't say electrocuted, but you getting shocked. It's not the same thing.
No, it's like when you go to physiotherapy and they put the 2 electrodes on you and tell me when it tingles.
Yeah.
It's called tense current, right?
Yeah.
That is what's being used in those collars.
Yeah, exactly. It's minimal.
It's not a transformer on the outside that, gives you a 220.
It's not like the first generational ones.
No, at all. They have made such strides in it, and they're so finely adjustable. And again, it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
You can misuse any tool. Cruelty relies within the character of the person.
Whether it's a trainer or owner or handler.
Whoever handles the dog at the time, right? If a person is inclined to be cruel, they will be cruel with a leash and a flat collar.
True.
Because it's in their nature to be cruel. It doesn't matter what they have in their hands. They will be cruel. Okay? And to paint everybody with a broad brush like that and say, if you use any of those tools, you're automatically a cruel person and an asshole. It's like, okay, yeah, swipe. Right? I don't even entertain it anymore. Because I've dealt with some dogs that they would probably, if they're in front of that dog, the same people who say those things, they probably need a diaper check.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're crapping their pants if they have to deal with that dog or one of those dogs. I've come across some pretty intense dogs. And so, you can't feed your way out of that.
All these people that want to preach and even condemn people for not being positive only, they have not, most of the time, if you question them, if you ask them for proof, they cannot show you a case of where they've dealt with a truly aggressive dog.
They just recently put out a video, right? But it's dogs in a shelter that are aggressive behind a gate. That is barrier aggression. They're really afraid. If you take that dog out of that kennel, it's a different dog.
Yeah.
And there's no aggression gone. But then we'll say, oh yeah, we cured it.
It shows the easiest case to show, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing my head off. Right? And I like there's a trainer in the UK that still has, I think it's 20 or 30,000 pound challenge that if you can take his dog out of the crate and do 2 laps in the car park, you get 20,000 pounds.
That's black rock.
No, it's
No.
obsidian. I
Oh,
think.
obsidian.
Yeah.
Kidine,
Right?
yeah.
If you take his dog out of the crate and do 2 laps in the car park, you get 20,000 pounds. And nobody has taken him up on it. Why is that? Because they know they can't do it. They know they can't do it. He deals with pretty intense dogs and he himself calls the dog an asshole. Right? It's a difficult dog. It's a very aggressive dog. And he has invited people. He even said, I pay your ticket. Come here and take this dog out, and all you have to do is walk this dog.
Yeah, he's offering
You don't have to
incentive.
you don't even have to train it. You just have to walk him 2 laps in the car park. If you do that, this is the cash pot is yours. And nobody took him up on it. And it's a challenge he has out there for 2 years now.
Yeah, which goes to show you.
Yeah, it's all BS. You know, there's a number of people that have taken those studies and surveys and picked them apart for what they were. Right? Not real studies. And then you have to follow the money. It's all clickbait. All those posts are clickbait for likes and controversy
Engagement,
because
yeah.
they know controversy gets pushed by the algorithm and they get more followers and
Because more people
more
disagree
likes.
and
Yes,
comment.
yes,
and, yeah.
yes. It's all about that. That's why they're so busy putting out video after video, condemning everybody else that is not like them, right? And they have the only magic pill and everybody else is just abusive and an asshole while they're raking in the money. That's the real reason behind it, right? And they're not showing any work. They're not showing how they're dealing with a truly aggressive dog. Because they can't. They simply can't. Now, I'm not saying there are some purely positive trainers that are really good. Right? There was one on a podcast with Ivan, right? Susan Garrett. She has chosen not to do something 30 years ago, right? To work without corrections. But she will admit it took her 30 years to get there,
Yeah. To
right?
evolve
Because she
around.
had to find workarounds that take weeks and months that somebody else does in 2 days. Okay? But she has decided that's what she wants to do. And she has become really good at it. And she's a multiple world champion. And mind you, it's also in a category of dog sport where there is no, it's all forward movement, so there is no corrections necessary,
Right.
which is agility. There's no reason for corrections because you want the dog to get over the obstacle. That is the only goal. Is for the dog to get through this obstacle course. Of course, everything is positive,
Yeah.
right?
Trying to get him to go through.
Because you don't want to slow down the dog, you want to
And
make
to
him
go as fast
faster,
as possible, yeah.
right?
It's just it's more harnessing you drive.
Yeah, it would be different much more different if she would take a really dominant Rottweiler and trying to do Schutzhund with it,
Totally different.
right? Then some of those methods would go out of the window
It's
and
more
it's like
oppositional,
Good.
But it's totally different
But
when you're in a border collie, for example.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for what she has accomplished. And she admitted she had one dog where she knew the use of an e-collar would be the best thing and she couldn't give the dog any freedom because it would not recall when she calls it, if there is some wildlife around. And so she gave the dog to somebody else. Because she could not solve that problem.
She's one of the few within that.
That would actually admit that.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody else says, there's never a need for any corrections and there's never a need for anything. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. They train the dolphins with clickers and food. Yeah. After you take it out of its environment, stuff it in a tank that is way too small, not feed it for 3 days, and then you offer it some food. If it gives you a behavior and you go click, here's your hearing, and call it positive. Right? There's nothing positive about that. That is cruelty. Right? See if you can do that with a dolphin in the wild. Or see if you can do this with a killer whale out in the wild.
Definitely not.
Right? Exactly.
And then they wanna.
It's not that I'm calling these trainers cruel.
Mm-hmm.
There are some very good trainers that have worked with whales and so forth. But the whole concept of it is not force-free. Right? Yeah, they're using food as a positive reinforcement to train those animals, but the fact that they're in a tank doesn't make it force-free.
Exactly.
Right? That in itself shows that it's not force-free. So, but I'm just, I like the swipe feature a lot. So every time they show up in my
Hater, yeah.
every time
They
they
always
come
have
they
haters.
come in my feed, swipe. I'm no longer going down that rabbit hole because you can't talk to these people. They're not ready to talk. They're not ready to
Not open-minded
at all.
or willing
They're
to learn.
blindly regurgitating what somebody else said.
Yeah, because they don't have their own opinion or can't form their own.
No, they're just blindly following everything, and most of them are not even trainers.
No, but they want to speak like if they're trainers.
Yeah,
A lot of them don't even own a dog.
they just jump on a bandwagon and this is bad, right? Because somebody else says it's bad. Critical thinking switched off, and so I'm not. As I said, I'm not going down a rabbit hole anymore. I just swipe, block, right? I have enough work.
And there's this new.
I have enough work on my plate not to engage with that anymore. It's just it's too tedious.
Then there's this new trend in the force-free community of using quote-unquote gentle leaders.
Oh yeah, the not so gentle leaders.
Yeah. And people,
Yeah.
then people use the wrong size, and then it cuts the gum. And
Yeah,
then
it's
it yanks the whole head.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then dog has to go to the chiropractor afterwards to get a realignment because the dog decided to go after the cut and shot forward, and his whole head was yanked around.
Yeah, which is more dangerous than a simple collar.
It's just all BS. It's just all BS. If you apply some common sense, 98, 99% remains positive, and then there's the odd correction for something really bad. And, we're just going to move on. That's all. I was around when the first e-collars came out. Clad in leather. Right? I saw those. I felt that. That was different.
Yeah, people want to compare that
and
to
there was
the
no.
modern.
You couldn't adjust it either. It was just one strength, and that was blast. Right? That is different. But we have come
so far
away from that. So long ago. It's not just recent. They have evolved so quickly, and it's just people just use that argument to make money. It's just, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's
So even based on logic,
follow
it's
if
just
you
like
follow
a-
if you follow the money. Yeah, that's all it is. It's about advertising to get advertisers, to get likes, to get followers, sponsor. That's all it is about. This is not about the dog. This is not about helping dogs. One of the main people, his dog is as neurotic as it was when it was a puppy, and it's 4 years old. And it's still terrified to go into any park where they have dogs and acts out aggressively and bites other dogs. So in 4 years, he couldn't fix that?
What a lot
In
of
4 years, and the dog is hiding under a bench, and she feels more comfortable under the bed. No, the dog is hiding. The dog is hiding from other dogs because he's petrified, producing cortisol like a champion. And you call yourself force-free? The dog's stressed no ass. But you call that force-free? Nah, that's BS. That is BS. That dog could be living the best life, not being afraid of every dog that runs around, and be a lot more social and not stressed, right? But he wouldn't let it happen. And so I can't talk to people like that. I'm sorry, I just can't. There's something in my brain that just doesn't take to that.
And then what a lot of people
4 years.
What a lot of people online forget, and it's often not their fault, it's just the way social media works, is that a lot of these trainers and pages, ultimately, it's a business.
Of course.
So the more controversial they are, the more likes and clicks, the more people will view and then view the ads, and the more they get paid. So they encourage rather than educating
Yeah,
and
they
being,
want to gaslight everybody.
and being honest. Yeah,
And they have their trolls that support the page.
of
Their
course.
whole job,
I almost say it's called
and they're paid.
yeah.
And there's some people that are actually paid to do this, right?
Mhm.
To be as controversial as possible and
Mhm.
to on their thread
Mhm.
so that the page gets the views.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a spiral. At the end of the day, I don't have time for this. I have dogs in front of me that I have to deal with.
And train, yeah.
And I'm spending my energy on that. I'm no longer responding to this. I'm no longer engaging them. It's just a colossal waste of time. And I'm not putting any more money in their pocket
True, I agree.
by reading all that garbage. And there will be in the future there will be a lot more blogs flying out.
Yeah. We've
so
been
that
trying
so
to
that
increase
so that
the
it
frequency
so
of
that it
blogs.
doesn't show up in my feed anymore. I'm just tired of it. It's too time consuming to even think about.
Definitely.
But I mean, we have to speak up.
Of
The
course.
rest of us, so that it's not
So
only one side
heard.
of the argument, so
Yeah.
that other opinions are being heard, right? And I'm also toying with the idea of becoming a member of the International Association of Professional. What is it? It's an international organization of dog professionals, and so that we give them more of a voice
Yeah, of course,
to
because
combat all of that.
trainers like you around the world right now are having their voices silent. I don't want to say just silence, but
No, they're trying
they're trying.
They're trying.
But they
by
there's a-
demonizing everybody that's not them.
right.
You know who tried that the last time?
Who?
Hitler.
Oh,
Right?
what an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. And then these
Demonize the other side, right? If you're not with me, you're the enemy, right?
Yeah.
Good. That is what they're doing. That is what they're doing. And they believe that they invented this shit.
Yeah.
No. There has been people that did this before.
Of course.
And,
And oftentimes you would see clients, former clients of these trainers, posting on social media that when they finally went by,
when they went to another trainer,
Yeah.
all of a sudden they got results like
they got
that.
results, and they
Right?
would
And
sometimes
lasting results too.
they'd often complain how traumatized and neurotic the dogs were because of the previous trainer.
Yeah. Yeah, you see it all the time, right? Went to two force-free
So
trainers.
sad.
Two force-free trainers before.
It's so sad.
And the kind of things that anything from if he stops growling, just give him a cookie. To, this dog needs to be on psychotropic drugs and walk around like a zombie. Right? What? Never used that in my life. For a dog? No. I'm not saying that in some dogs that have really, really bad separation anxiety, Prozac wouldn't help. It has shown to help in about 50% of the cases, right? At least initially. But outside of that, there is no need for this. That is just,
Yeah.
I'm incompetent, so this dog either needs to get put down or it needs to be on meds. Or it has to go to a shelter. Right now the shelter's overflowing because of that
Globally,
same
yeah.
because of that same nonsense. So it is what it is. Don't want to spend any more time
Understandable.
on their BS. So yeah. Good convo. Check out our website,
Dogpoint.pet.
dogpoint.pet. All the links are on there to all of our social media pages, to the free consultations, the paid consultations, breed selection consultations. We have newsletter there. We have blogs there. There's tons of information. The link to our Amazon storefront is there. Check out what we have there. The iFeed Raw t-shirt designed by Michael here.
Link in bio.
And yeah.